Hey there, welcome to Oh Happy Plants. Today you'll learn to water your plants like a boss. Even before I started caring for plants professionally, I came across a lot of really interesting watering advice. And even now, I see all sorts of bad information, like information that might be based on one person's experience with the plant in a poor choice of environment for that species. So it might work for some people sometimes, but it's not going to work for all the people all the time. And that's the issue. A new plant parent isn't going to know how to distinguish the good from the bad. And so what we need is a comprehensive plant information guide that addresses all of the challenges that you might face, and Oh Happy Plants is here to bring it. So the first thing to knock out is this advice I see floating around to let your plant wilt slightly before watering. I try to never do this. A lot of plants can survive a drought, sure, but that doesn't mean it's healthy for them. Just like our bodies can survive for several days without water, we don't do that on purpose. We drink when we're thirsty, and I think that everybody agrees that it's important to our health to just have water available when we're thirsty instead of trying to force ourselves to go for a few days. And what if somebody waited to give you a drink until you started showing signs of organ failure? It's not such a great idea, right? Well, that's what wilt is. So instead, just water when the plant wants you to. Each plant you have will drink a different amount based on variety and size, and location plays a role too, influencing light level, temperature, and airflow. Does this sound tricky? It totally doesn't have to be. We're going to get into how to get started and then adjust your particular environment. Here's the quick and dirty. So first, the question, how do you water, must have a three-part answer. First, you have to mention the amount of water. It's important to know measurements and not use subjective words, because people will say, oh, I give it a lot of water, and they're talking about giving a massive, thirsty rainforest plant like maybe a quart of water every few weeks, when that same plant could probably drink a gallon. And so they wonder why it's exhibiting signs of wilt or stress, and they're actually only giving it a quart of water. Now, a quart might be a lot for you to drink in one sitting, but it's all subjective. That's not a lot for that giant plant. So then next, you want to give the frequency you're watering. If somebody asks you how you're watering, or especially if you're filling out our Q&A online, we want to know the amount, the frequency, which is how often you water it. If you check your plants and water weekly, say that. If you water whenever you remember, and that's like once a month, say that, because trust me, we've all been there. And if you water daily, you probably need to stop, because that's probably too much for your plant, but we'll get into that later. Last, it's important to know the pot size, because that'll tell us the volume of the soil that you're wetting when you water. Plant size is important too. The bigger the green part of the plant, the more it's going to drink. So those three things make up your watering plan. So this is the easy way. Basically, you just pour water into the top until it comes out the bottom. If you use our preferred method for pot setup, you have the nursery pot inside of a decorative container with a saucer in there if necessary. If you want to see that method, we did a tutorial on that. It's called All About Pot Setup. And so with that system, you just water until it comes out in the saucer, and most plants don't mind if there's just a tiny bit of water left in the saucer, like 1/8 of an inch or so, but if there's more than that, then definitely take it out and dump it out until you figure out a little more about the plant species that you have, because some plants can deal with a little water in the saucer and having wet feet, sitting in a puddle, and other plants just hate it. So after you do that, just check the plant frequently. You want to catch it just before it needs more water. Remember, you don't want it to wilt, so you need to catch it before it goes all the way dry. Now, you can check soil moisture by feeling both the top and bottom of the soil. Remember, water is heavy, so it's going to sink, and it also evaporates. So even if the top is totally dry, the soil at the bottom might still be wet. Just reach into the pot or pop the nursery pot out and feel the grow holes at the bottom. If they're moist, you can give it at least another day. You can also go off of weight, and this is what the pros do. Just lift the pot. You'll get a feel for how heavy it is when it's wet versus dry, and then you can just heft your plant and see if you need to water it. It's really easy. When it's time to water again, just count the days between your waterings. I like to set a calendar reminder for watering if a plant is really fussy, because then I won't forget, because Lord knows I've got enough going on, and it can be a really good idea to check them a little early even. So sometimes I'll set a calendar reminder for a day or two before I watered last time. Like if I watered after 7 days the last time, I'll just check it after like 6 days just to see if I'm on the edge of needing to water again. It's really important to do that during seasonal changes because you don't know how much water a plant is going to use when the sun starts shining a whole lot more and it's growing a whole lot more. So remember, you need to always check your plants prior to watering. A lot of people will just water without checking the soil, and so they'll end up with a plant that is already damp, and they're just adding more to that, and that can end up with a plant that's overwatered pretty quickly. Also, they may come upon a plant that's really, really dry and has been dry for like 5 or 6 days and is wilted, and they just water without checking to see if it's really dry, just because they assume that it's been a couple weeks, so they should probably water. And so either of those is problematic, because if you water a whole lot when a plant is dry and you don't know that that was the reason that it was showing those wilty signs or throwing yellow leaves off, then you won't realize that you should probably water a little bit sooner next time. So definitely check every single time. So that was the simple watering plan. Now, what do the pros do? So we start by nerding out. We want to know the specific variety of plant we have, and then we go digging for information on that plant. Now, don't worry, this shouldn't be intimidating. It doesn't have to be hard. We're just here to learn, and I'm going to go ahead and explain it in the next couple of slides here. So first you want to figure out what kind of plant you have. You'll want to get as detailed as you can with this. Take the 2 plants at the right. These are both varieties of Aglaonema, which come from the humid tropical forests of Asia and New Guinea. Now, rainforest floors have very rich soil and they drain well because they're used to so much rain. This plant will expect easy access to water without being waterlogged, but these 2 varieties do require slightly different care. The one on the top is lighter, and you can usually tell that a plant wants more light if it has more variegation, which is that pretty pattern on the leaves. Whereas the plant on the bottom is more dark green, and so that one can handle a little bit less light, and typically the more light a plant has or wants, the more water it also wants. Now, this is not necessarily true of succulents, but we'll get into that. So this cute Lithops, on the other hand, he gets really, really good light, and he also lives in the desert. And so this little baby is basically a camel. They come from the Namib Desert, and there they see a lot of sun and super, super low annual rainfall, like really low. And so this little baby is basically a camel. It'll drink what's available, and then it just waits and waits and waits. So you might be asking this question, what if you don't know what plant you have? A lot of plants are labeled tropical foliage or some other useless nonsense, and so we totally get it if you don't know. Go ahead and hop online and do an image search for whatever characteristics you know how to describe. Sometimes people have a hard time with this because they don't really know how to describe a certain leaf shape. And so if you look up a picture of leaf varieties, that can help. For example, the Schefflera arboricola to the right has a palmate leaf, and including that descriptor in a search for a houseplant would give you a better chance of getting an answer on this guy. If that doesn't work, or if you simply don't know where to start, hop onto the membership community and ask on the main board. I'm sure there's somebody on there who will know what your plant is if you post a photo of it, and if the members don't know, like, right away, then go ahead and post your question in the Q&A and we'll get you a name on that. So when you have a plant name, do a little research. Pop in quote-unquote plant name and native habitat. With this one, you would search what is a Fabian Aurelia's native habitat, and then search for what the climate is like in that area. What's the annual rainfall and temperature range in that area of the world? Also, you can search for a description of the type of soil found in that climate. You should be able to narrow it down to figure out what kind of dirt your baby wants, whether it's a heavy or light drinker, and how much sun it likes, and all of that stuff. So plants adapted to different climates are going to want different care. A plant from the rainforest is going to want lots of water and rich, well-drained soil because the rainforest is lush and leafy. There's a ton of dead leaf matter on the ground, which makes a spongy, rich soil that drains well but also holds on to water. So your plant will expect plenty of nutrients, soil that isn't totally waterlogged, but also water to be readily available all the time. And this type of plant, rainforest plants, they are not used to drying out. If it's not raining, it's very humid there, and so they definitely don't want to dry out. Now, a plant from a swamp is sitting in a nutrient-rich soup, and it can handle less air around the roots. I have a couple examples coming up of swamp plants. These ones don't necessarily need well-draining soil, and they can handle just sitting in a puddle of water. And so that's a helpful thing to remember, especially if it's a heavy drinker, that you can leave it sitting in a saucer of water and it should be fine. Now, we'll get into that more. I have another video coming out called Troubleshooting Watering Problems, and that one will go into all of the issues you might run into with yellowing leaves or something like that for overwatering. And so swamp plants typically can just sit in a puddle, but again, it really depends on the type of light you give, so be careful with that when you're starting out. Now, a plant from the desert is probably used to soil with high mineral content. Now, we're talking sand here. Low organic matter and very little water are characteristic of that environment too. And so desert plants, they're really tough, and they definitely can handle a little bit more neglect, but still you do want to water your succulents. And again, we're going to get into that in a minute. Now, a plant from a grassland area is going to want soil with a lot of decayed organic matter because the grass dies and flattens and new grass springs up. And so there's these like layers after layers of dead grass that form this really rich soil. And typically it's going to want a bit less water than rainforest plants. Definitely look up the specific area's annual rainfall though, because often grasslands get a bunch of rain at certain times of the year. So here are some examples of rainforest plants. Most ficus species, aglaonemas, crotons, and surprisingly snake plants are actually rainforest plants. Now the snake plant, the what's now a Dracaena trifasciata laurentii up in the top right corner, these are also known as Sansevierias or mother-in-law's tongue. These guys, most people think, don't want very much water, and they actually drink a ton. Here are quite a few swamp plants. These guys do just fine with waterlogged roots. Several of them actually will grow, like the papyrus down at the bottom right, will grow in a river or a kind of swampy, marshy area, and that's just where they're naturally found. And so if you want to mimic that environment in your home, you can do that. You just want to pay attention to the type of light that they would get in nature and try to mimic that as much as possible as well. Here are quite a few desert plants. Now, these definitely use less water than the ones we just saw, but they do drink water. Deserts will often get a slight dew in the morning, and they get that most mornings. And then the rosette shape of most of these plants actually acts to trap the dew on the leaves. The dew will settle on the leaves, and then it funnels it down towards the plant's root system. So pay attention. If you're seeing brown tips or dead bottom leaves on your succulents, you need to water more. And again, we get more into that in the Troubleshooting Watering Issues video. Now, most of the grassland plants we use as houseplants are Dracaenas. They're really fabulous plants and like their soil rich but well draining, just like their native habitat. Most Dracaenas are from Africa, so they typically like great light too. Here are a few examples of what you might ask the internet if you're not familiar with doing some serious nerding online. You can always come back to this slide, and also I will be totally available to put this in the comments or answer any questions about specific terms a person could use, so just ask those questions in the Q&A. Okay, now you know your plant's native climate, soil type, and the basic elements of a watering plan. Now what do? You put them all together. All right, let's say you have a cute little coffee plant as shown. It's in a 4-inch pot and it has rich soil that will hold about a cup of water. You give it a cup of water and then you set a reminder on your phone calendar to check on it in a week, because if you're anything like me, you might forget. And nobody's faulting you for that. So a week goes by and it's still pretty damp. You set another reminder for 4 more days. On the 4th day, the soil is barely wet and you can tell it's not all the way dry, but the pot feels really light. So it's time to water again, and you caught it on the perfect day. This is a snake plant, another example. This is a Dracaena trifasciata laurentii, and again, they reclassified this from Sansevieria to Dracaena in 2017. And I know it's wrong, like it just feels wrong, but apparently it's genetically more correct. So there you go with scientists fixing things and confusing the rest of us. Gotta love them. Just FYI, out of habit, I'm always going to refer to these as Sansevierias, and so I'll use the term Sansevieria or snake plant interchangeably. So, surprise! This guy is from the tropics. As I mentioned before, this plant actually hails from the rainforests in West Africa, and if you give it enough light, it will drink a ton of water, and they get huge too. I have many that are taller than me, and I'm almost 6 foot, so these guys get massive. I have a lot of these in fabulously bright direct light areas that grow like crazy. And I've even had these grow roots that break their pot, like literally stab through the side of the pot and just go wherever they want because they like the light so much, and I fertilize and I water enough. Now, they don't often want a lot of evening sun if it's super hot in your part of the world, so if you notice your snake plant getting bleached, that's sunburn, and it could use a bit more distance from the window or just like a sheer curtain or something like that. So a little more on this. Tons of folks will tell you that Sansevierias don't drink much. Now, while it's very true that you can totally overwater a snake plant and cause the roots to rot, this typically only occurs when you haven't given it bright enough light. And lots of people will also tell you that these will survive in relatively dim locations, and that's true, but survival means they're basically dying very slowly. They're not going to thrive in the dark. So if you want to water your Sansevieria the way that it wants, you want to give it fabulously bright light. So the plant on the right gets direct sun for the first half of the day, so it's not too hot, but it's extremely bright. It just gets morning sun, and it's by a really big window, and so it gets really good light all day long. Now, I would give this full 10-inch pot of Sansevieria 2 to 3 quarts of water every 2 weeks in this sort of light. If this same plant was in a dim room, I might give it 2 cups of water every 2 weeks, and I might even draw that out to a month in the wintertime if it's cooler. Now, light is really the deciding factor here with water. So this is a marble queen pothos, another jungle plant. This guy comes from French Polynesia and has been naturalized all over the place, similar to how English ivy has naturalized through the US. Now, pothos will even grow up trees in Hawaii and get so massive that the whole tree dies and falls down. They call it devil's ivy over there for a reason. Pothos is one that often gets the wait until it wilts treatment, and some people will instruct new plant owners to do that. And then people wonder why it gets yellow leaves from the center outward and eventually looks like scraggly ropes with a few leaves at the very end. And the wilting causes the leaf death because it's trying to use that leaf as a little water bottle. Again, we'll get more into that in the diagnosing watering issues video, the troubleshooting water issues video, sorry. And so the wilting causes the leaf death, and it's not an ideal situation for the plant. You don't want your plant dying. It's not normal to be losing leaves. That's not what a thriving plant looks like. So even in the dry season where these babies live, they get a few inches of rain every month, and the humidity is 80 to 90%. So these guys definitely want water to be available. So if you want a pothos in lower light, choose one of the darker varieties, not the marble queen, but maybe the golden pothos or the jade pothos. We'll go into that in another video though. For now, take a look at these two plants. Very similar in their needs, but the one on the top is in a 4-inch pot with very short vines. It's a pretty new plant. And the one in the bottom has 3-foot-long vines that are super full and bushy in a 6-inch pot. Now, I'd give the little guy on the top about a cup of water every week or two, and the big guy 3 to 6 cups of water every 2 weeks. I'd adjust within those parameters for the season. You know, in the winter, it's going to have less light, and so they're going to be growing less. It may also be a little cooler, and in the summer, it might be really, really warm, and they're definitely going to get their grow on. So they definitely drink more during that season. And so this gives you a general idea. The more leaves a plant has, the fluffier it is, the fuller it is, the more water it's going to need typically. So is this starting to make sense? Let's go ahead and break it down into 3 simple steps. Number 1, figure out what your plant is adapted to in its native habitat. Number 2, Take a look at where you have it right now. How similar is that to the native habitat in terms of light and heat? Number 3, adjust your watering based on both. Here are a few more examples. Remember, this is something that takes a while to get a feel for. Right now, just learn what to look for. You'll catch on and be able to apply all of this info in no time. Here's a little zebra Haworthia, which is Haworthia big band. Because this little guy lives in my bedroom and gets most of his light from a grow light, he doesn't drink near as much as he would in a south-facing windowsill. He's got a 4-inch pot. He drinks half a cup to 3/4 of a cup. That's like 4 to 6 ounces. And I only water him about once a month. Now this baby can go dry for about a week or so without any issue. So this is a really good starter plant because it won't like wilt or freak out on you if it goes dry within the first day or two. This is a fiddle leaf fig, Ficus lyrata, in a huge east-facing window. In this picture, the plant itself is about 12 feet tall, and the window is probably 20 feet tall, so that's a lot of light. It's in a 14-inch pot, and it actually has a sub-irrigation system, which I'm going to get into, I promise, in a video further down the line, hopefully this summer. It will drink 1 to 4 gallons of water every 2 weeks. And 4 gallons seems like a lot, but look at how much plant that root system is supporting. That's a lot of leaf right there. So the difference in water here between 1 and 4 gallons is based on the season. This guy drinks a ton in the summer and may only drink a gallon every 2 weeks in the winter. Sometimes less than that, but usually it'll drink a little bit more. And so this guy, it's really important to just adapt the watering based on the growing season, because when these guys are in their growing season, when they get their grow on, they drink a ton of water. Here's another example. This little Brazil is in extremely low light. It's in an alcove lit with a single LED bulb, and this is in a medical office, and it's not a huge plant with long trailing vines because it grows really slowly due to the poor lighting. It's still really happy and healthy here, but I have had to adjust down my watering. If I had this same plant in a window, it would drink 2 to 3 times as much. But because it's in this little dim alcove, it doesn't drink very much. He's just chilling. He's still growing, so I know he's happy, but he's just chill. And so he'll drink 3/4 to 1 cup of water every 2 weeks. That's 6 to 8 ounces. Now, while these guys do want to be on a regular schedule, they don't use that much water. A Brazil doesn't use as much water as a pothos, and so that's why it's important to know what type of plant you're dealing with and do a little research on what they like. A cup every 2 weeks is perfect, but also if I gave this guy 2 cups once a month, it would drown him for the first half of the month, and then for the second half he might be too thirsty. And so it is important to know what your plant expects as far as how frequent it wants water, as well as how much. Okay, now it's time to put this into practice. Go ahead and take a look around your home. What one plant could you learn about right now? If you don't have any plants yet, or if it's time for a new one, because we know it's always time for a new plant, go pick one out and bring it home and do a little research on the plant's native habitat and then start experimenting. Now, Oh Happy Plants is going to be putting out species-specific videos to give you an in-depth look at individual plant varieties, so you can really tailor your care. But for a while, we're going to focus on the big picture, and so hang tight. We will get deep into each species as we go. If you have specific questions in the meantime, before we get to that, be sure to head over to our Q&A section within the membership site. We would love to help you with any problem solving, and your plants are going to love it too, because they'll get amazing care from you. And we know that you're already providing amazing care, and so let's just kick that up a bit, and your plants are going to love it. Thanks again for stopping in to learn more about plants with us, and to our members, we are stoked that you've joined us in our mission to reforest the world. Together with One Tree Planted, each Oh Happy Plants community member plants 1 tree every single month of membership. Together, we are going to paint the world green. Happy planting.